All right, welcome to a special episode of the Midnight Graveyard. So, welcome, creepy creatures of the night. Do I have some midnight reads for you? I just finished this book trilogy of The Bone Witch that I highly recommend. This is the last book in the series. There are two other ones, The Bone Witch, The Heart Forager, and the third, The Shadow Glass by Rin Chupeco. I highly recommend this series. It is a world of fantasy, witchcraft, powers, love, romance, responsibilities, and duties. Absolutely need to check this out, and it can be a little bit spooky as it deals with some magic at times. So I highly recommend. As you can see, it is a young A story or series, and I borrowed mine from the library. So I highly recommend you also borrow your series from the library. Support our libraries. So the first book in the series is The Bone Witch, and in this series you meet T, who soon realizes that she is a dark Asha, who has incredible powers. She's able to resurrect her brother from the dead, and with that, her entire world changes. So as you read this first book, you are realizing who T is as she is realizing it, and you start to see the new world that she encounters, where there are more risks, more responsibilities, and she needs to leave her family and travel to other worlds to learn those customs and the different responsibilities that she has now that she is a bone witch. In the second book, The Heart Forager, you meet some more characters that have more dynamics to them. It is just an incredibly action-packed story, The Heart Forager, where you start to see the battles that they encounter now that truths are starting to be known and different lands have different histories that are becoming more apparent. So highly recommend that you read The Heart Forager. Some other powers start to come up in The Heart Forager, where T is now able to control others' minds. So there's more complications to the deeper powers that she possesses. Things get a little bit more spookier, creepier, and magical in The Heart Forager. And then finally, The Shadow Glass. I recently finished this one. I was incredibly excited to read it, but also prolonged it. I knew it was the last book in this 3-book series, and I didn't want this magical world to end for me. So it was hard to read just for the fact that I didn't want things to end. I really developed feelings for these characters and wanted to see what went on, and had a feeling that things wouldn't end happily ever after, because the writing of this author seems to be very intentional and almost realistic, in the sense that real scenarios among people are existing in these fantasy lands that she's created. So in this book, things just get heavily more intense. Lots of power across multiple people. Lots of people dying, losing characters that you've developed and loved for so long, more complexities throughout all the kingdoms you've gotten used to, and this unraveling of history as it's been known up until this point is kind of the underlying theme of this last book in the series. And so it's just absolutely incredible. I think what I loved most is that there is this whole different world that is created in these series. You have geographic maps in here. You learn about the terrains, the types of cultures that are possessed among these different areas, and how those cultures have these rich histories that also play with one another, and what that means in the hierarchies that exist, because it is a land of kingdoms and kings and queens, and then the magical Asha and their roles as well, and what depended upon what powers they possess. Within all of this, there are lots of themes that have to do with some modern issues. There's some gender themes and love themes, which I loved, breaking these ideas of gender norms and having very real conversations about what gender roles are and how they should look or should not look. And that's all intermixed in this fantasy world of witches and dark magic, which is really awesome and really nice to see. Lots of messages of love, familiar love, familial love, family love, as well as romantic love and love of friendship, and the types of complications that arise from that in challenging times, as well as the responsibilities those types of love leave you with as well. And then becoming more powerful throughout all of this complicates things even further. So there's lots of stuff there. And I'd say even more so is just the story of, let's say, traditions, authority, and history that is interwoven across all three books and is finally challenged in this book, ultimately challenged in this book, and how, similar to other things that have been articulated recently in modern times, but just the idea that whoever is telling the story is deciding what is of most value to tell, and therefore some things that maybe are valuable to other people or other times or cultures are maybe being omitted. Sometimes things are intentionally omitted to keep people misinformed and oppressed or suppressed, or just able to be tamed a certain way. And sometimes it's done with the intention to not necessarily evilly control others, but with the thought that it is best for all people. But time evolves, and you see some of that in this final book, where the changes of history are necessary to keep evolving as people evolve and different stories evolve and loved ones are hurt and relationships are formed or broken. So there's a lot of deep things in all three of these books, but ultimately they're fun, easy reads. If you are an adult who likes to read, these are, incredible YA books that are just, they're fun, they're engaging, they hop from different perspectives depending on the chapters that you're reading. So you're getting a lot of different stuff for your imagination to run wild with, which I really liked. So I would highly recommend this. Also, it's a little bit spooky. You can see the cover. There's this fun skull. The first one starts off with a bit more of it because everything is new, so the magic's new. So everything's very, very supernatural in that first book, The Bone Witch, and the cover of that one's also incredibly fun. And then you look at the Heart Forager, and it seems a little different. There's just a lot of action in this. Lots of monsters and demons, or Deva, Diva. I could be saying that wrong, but just lots of large supernatural creatures and lots of action in that second one. And then this last one continues with all of those elements and even more power and more intensity. So highly recommend this series. Fun, easy read. Get it from your library or go buy it for yourself. But either way, read the Bone Witch Trilogy by Rin Chupeco. I believe there are more books that this author has done that I am interested in checking out. I believe this is someone that enjoys writing these fantasy types of stories, and that's exactly what I'm interested in reading. So anything spooky, fantasy, supernatural, witchy, whatever it may be, that's what I'm reading. That's what I want to share with you all. So we'll have more of these little book chats and book check-ins. Thank you for joining the Midnight Graveyard Spooky Reads Edition.